Everyone here is aware that Simchat Torah, Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, all that is basically coming to a close now. And so the whole season from Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, Shmini Atzeret, Simchat Torah, all that has now come to a conclusion. Obviously, I have a full text here to be able to address the stuff I want to study with everyone today. I have to apologize. I am in a very casual shirt, a hat. I am not well groomed. I've been up much of the night, and it just is what it is. I would like to report to you what I know. I just got off the phone, 2 calls to Israel. I've been in contact constantly with friends and with family. And this is what I know. And this is not a current events class, but war just broke out in Israel, and we cannot just simply go about business as usual. That being said, this is what we know. Hamas, which is the terrorist group headquartered in Gaza. We always have to separate. Hamas is Gaza, Hezbollah is in Lebanon, and the Palestinian Authority wobbles between the 2 terrorist groups. Hamas launched a huge attack on Israel this morning. Actually, it was evening in Israel, and with devastating impact. The official report that we have is that first stage, 100 Israelis have been killed. The number of injured is simply not accurate. So the number is in the hundreds injured, and many Israelis have been kidnapped, and my sources tell me that with cell phone connection, a number of these hostages are already in the Gaza Strip. In other words, the kibbutzim lining the Gaza Strip around that area in the southern Negev were overrun in several cases, and hostages were taken and brought back into Gaza. Next, to know that the attacks occurred with the final celebrations of Simchat Torah, and several Simchat Torah parties, dancing with the Torah parties, were overrun by terrorists. And some of the people there died, some were kidnapped, but Simchat Torah is simply not happening. The Israeli synagogues have just stopped. So Simchat Torah, however easy it is for us here, is impossible for them there. I spoke with very close cousin just a few minutes ago. He is he's a commando. And his training was in engineering and explosives, and he has spent much of his war service in Iraq and elsewhere defending Israel's needs. He obviously went into Gaza at the previous war and was involved there. I think that the mood of Israel would be reflected in what he said to me. I said to him, Shachaf, I am so frustrated. I can't believe that I am here while you are suffering this. And he said to me, Stan, do you realize I have just aged out of being called up to the military, and it's killing me. So he is not being able to be called up. The issue of divisions and battles and democracy, everything has been set on the back burner. The towns, villages, I did not know this from the Wilf Blitzer and the CNN reports. I mean, I started getting reports here 11 o'clock our time last night. The villages, the towns, Shar HaNegev, other kibbutzim, other small cities in that area do not have a military presence. They're controlled, whatever, by police. The military is wherever the military is. So in the first hours of this war, the Israeli police were involved in trying to fight, push back armed militants with more than 3,000 missiles aimed at Israel during this period. The fact that it was the police, I mean, we're not talking about just, like unarmed crossing guards, but the fact that it was the police gave the terrorists a significant advantage in the early conflict because they went in with military precision and they went in with a battle plan. The battle plan involves what looks like real war. The Netanyahu government has met, and they are saying that Israel, we are in a state of war. Israel is at war. This is not an incident. Israel is at war. And some of the earliest comments, which may prove totally false, but some of the earliest comments by those Israelis who are commentators is that Hamas may very well have believed that this 38-week-long struggle against the Netanyahu government has left Israel vulnerable to attack. And the timing of the attack might very well be connected with the sense that Israelis are ripping themselves apart and will be more vulnerable to whatever Hamas does than otherwise. My sources in Israel, again, just my people. I mean, my friends have already had friends killed. They're saying that the reservists, remember that the reservists, especially pilots, said that they would not, continue serving in the reserves until this attack on democracy is ended. To my knowledge, and based upon what my friends have said, all 100% of the reservists have responded to the call-up. So there is one country, one response. A war like this will most likely continue for a relatively long period. Israel has been bloodied, seriously bloodied. It is not going to sign off on a ceasefire. That means an Israeli ground invasion of Gaza. That means that just what I know, Hamas knows, and therefore bloody traps have been set for the IDF.
Mordecai, today, WhatsApp audio.
Okay, Risa, I'm getting a call from Israel. Risa, would you please continue with them? It's Mordecai.
I know, but what do you want me to say?
Just
You've said it.
Just be with them and I'll be back in a minute.
You won't be back in a
Mordecai?
minute. That's our cousin.
Can
Can you hear me?
yeah, Angel.
Yes, Joe, we hear you.
That's our Stanley's first cousin. Yeah, just
Oh,
is on the phone now.
is he out of harm's way? He's out of harm's way, you say?
I can't hear you.
Is he out of harm's way?
Yeah. Mordecai is north of Ashkelon. And Ashkelon is on the road to Sderot, but it's pretty far north of Sderot. So we spoke to his son, Shachaf, earlier. We couldn't get Mordecai because he was out in the fields. So he evidently got contacted by Shachaf and answered.
Rita, I have a stupid question. I bet it's stupid, but I have a question. Can the President Biden help with aid and help Israel? Can the President?
There's already been a statement that the United States is standing by, ready for whatever Israel asks for or needs.
Yes, God bless you, Joe.
So that's fine. I don't know what else to say. We spoke to my girlfriend Gary, Rabbi Ori Regeb's wife. She's in Jerusalem, extremely upset. They've had air raids, and this is so unusual. It's so unusual. The last time this happened was Yom Kippur a year ago. Shachaf, I don't know what Stanley's already told you, but Shachaf said that there were many Simchat Torah gatherings and parties going on Saturday night, and those parties were bombed. The last numbers I heard on CNN were 700 deceased, 1,000 in hospital. And so we'll see. Oh,
bye-bye, love.
his phone is ringing again. Just a minute. Who was it? Who just
It was
called?
Mordecai and go. Okay,
Who just called
Mordecai.
again? Oh, it rang again. You didn't hear it.
So the situation continues to unfold. The kibbutzim further removed from the border are not affected. So my family lives 45 minutes from Shar HaNegev. They're not affected, if you will, not directly.
President Biden needs to bomb Hamas.
Okay, we're not going to do this. I'm going to share with you something that I just got. All politics aside, when Israel has attacked the world Jewish community, that's us, is called to unite with the state of Israel to protect its people. There is no left and there is no right when Israel's at war. Only one nation. Call Yisrael Arevim Zebazeh. Every Jew is responsible for every other Jew. As one Jew, one Zionist, that's us, one lover of the people, we pray for the success of the Israel Defense Forces. That having been said, the Israel Defense Forces have received a terrible black eye in terms of not knowing in advance, not having information about what could be happening. The citizens, the people, are shuttling between fear and rage. Fear that the missiles could strike their home, or that out in the street in front of their apartment, there could be terrorists and rage that they have been let down by the Israel Defense Forces security apparatus. And that's going to play out, that just today, that's going to play out into the future. So in Haaretz, just in a special release, where was the Israel Defense Forces?
Good
Where
question.
the word is defending the West Bank and the expansionist settlements there. All regular force battalions are invested in policing the occupation and settlement enterprises. The enemy chose to surprise us on a holiday and Shabbat and defend and attack, invaded an unprotected and unmanned space, kibbutzim, moshavim, towns, just like in 73. If there had only been 2 or 3 infantry battalions on combat alert in the Gaza Strip instead of on the West Bank, things would have looked different. Israel was caught unprepared and dysfunctional. The blood price is horribly high. The psychological effect is dramatic. The feeling that many Israelis have had in recent months that the country is being destroyed and collapsing has received a sharp and tangible expression like no other. The historical timing, of course, resonates with what happened in the 73 war. This is the greatest humiliation inflicted upon Israel by its enemies since 50 years ago, the Yom Kippur War. In October 23, terrorists with jeans, guns, and phones rushed across the border. They have brought what will be on their unfortunate people in Gaza a heavy disaster coming to Gaza. Again, Haaretz says, the occupation and the maintenance diverted the IDF, the Shin Bet, the border guard from their original mission. And the investing of huge resources in the settlers does not contribute to the security of Israel. We don't know how this current tragedy will end, but there is no such thing as managing and normalizing the conflict. Listen to this. All of the moves in favor of normalization arrangements with Saudi Arabia and other countries are now bankrupt. That is a terribly painful statement. Terribly painful. That's about what I have to share with you in terms of my personal knowledge. And of course, you're all following on television. We'll take a couple of minutes of comments and then go to Torah. I promise to do that. We will do Torah. Rebecca.
Is at the Gaza border, are Palestinians crossing into Israel to work? Is that one of the places that Palestinians are crossing?
The crossing was not over the public crossings. The crossing was through fields. And you know, there's the element of surprise. So
No. I mean, where the Palestinians crossing over into Israel at the Gaza Strip for work in Israel.
those things have been happening. Yes, Palestinians have been crossing the border to go work in Israel and bring back income to the Gaza Strip. Yes. Yes. Steve.
Is there anything specific other than their general hate of Israel and from their point of view, nice timing that set this off. I haven't found anything that suggests there was some specific triggering action.
The way too soon, what do they say? The fog of war, is that the expression? The fog of war. There's no facts that are firm. I indicated that some people are now saying the Hamas viewed Israel as internally weak because of the the attacks on the Israeli judiciary by the government. There's also, Steve, a
Well,
comment.
that's the opportunity. It's not a triggering reason.
That is the opportunity, but that itself could be triggering. I can't answer you that. I can't answer you that. I can say that the call for the resignation of the government is rising, and that call imitates the call to Golda Meir to resign after the large outbreak of the 73 war, and she in fact had to resign. And if that at all is a pattern, once Israel, and I think it will, stabilizes the situation, the call for the Netanyahu government to resign will be thunderous. And again, the call is because of an intelligence failure and a failure to have the IDF where it needed to be. It has nothing to do with courts and protests. Okay?
You're right, Rabbi.
Okay. So are there any other hands? Is anyone else?
I have one hand up. May I just say, recently said that President Joe Biden said he'd stand by to help Israel. I think he should go over there and just take out Hamas.
Okay. Is there any other comment that someone would like to make or share a feeling? If you want to share how you are responding, Fern.
Just on a human toll, I have family and friends in Israel and spoke with them this morning, and they are sitting in their safe rooms.
Yeah, thank you, Fern. The safe rooms in our apartment, we bought an apartment in Jerusalem with 3 bedrooms. 2 bedrooms were like normal bedrooms. 1 bedroom had bomb-proof sliding panels over the window and invasion-proof steel doors on the door. Those are called safe rooms. Safe rooms. All new construction in Israel have safe rooms. Very often they become kids' playrooms and the whole thing, and it's very nice to have the 3rd bedroom or 2nd bedroom. But what's happening right now is that at this moment, many Israelis are living in their safe room. There have been constant red alerts at midnight, 1 o'clock this morning. I was in conversation with a friend, and she's saying the alarms, the sirens keep going off. Can you imagine being in a situation in a steel covered room, listening to missile alerts going off one after the other, and of course having no idea where the missile will strike, because the missile strikes are not aimed particularly at military installations. Okay, any other comments, please? And I do respect your desire to speak, to share a feeling. If you have a desire to share a feeling, this is your time. Anyone else?
We'll all be praying.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna follow this. Ray, please.
Thank you. I just have a question. I recall that in the past, you have suggested when we're looking for a reasonably balanced source for following Israel stories that you've liked the BBC. Is that still a source that you recommend? And then are there any others for us over the days to come that you suggest is helpful and makes at least a reasonable effort at objectivity and responsible reporting?
Okay, Ray, that, as always, that's a great, Kevin, what did you say? I'm watching Al Jazeera. Okay. Yeah, okay, Al Jazeera. Can you say what they're saying, Kevin? Kevin, are you there? Kevin?
So they're saying mostly what everyone else is saying. However, they basically suggested that Israel has provoked them over the last 12 months and over the last 70 years. So I mean, it's a different perspective, but basically what you said, they've taken captives. The one thing that I did notice that they said is eventually after war, there is peace, and the peace is going to be basically giving a lot of money to the Palestinians to rebuild and to like give up a lot of prisoners. So that's the main thing.
I was listening this morning. Thanks, Kevin. I was listening this morning simultaneously, if you can imagine that, to MSNBC and CNN. The MSNBC coverage, which I often watch, infuriated me because the commentator was desperately committed to being even-handed. And I am such a lovely human being. I am not committed to being even-handed when Israel is attacked.
Right on.
And the effort to say, as President Trump once said, there are good people on both sides. I am absolutely not interested in that. I am desperately worried. What do they call this? The day after? What will the day after look like? Al Jazeera is raising that question. What will the day after look like? After a full-scale surprise invasion, do you just sign a ceasefire and then go about business as before?
No. Definitely not.
So what will it look like? And I just don't know. There are going to be a lot of funerals this week. Over 100 funerals, probably double that number. There are a lot of funerals coming this week. And the IDF will go into Gaza, I believe. And Gaza is waiting for them with blind alleys, booby-trapped roads, and setting up attack facilities next to schools so that Israel can be blamed for attacking children. This is what we have. But beyond, Eric, please, Eric.
Okay, I saw 9/11 with my own eyes 22 years ago, and I'm just incensed what's happening. I lived in Midtown Manhattan, and when the smoke hit my apartment, it smelled like chicken feathers, burnt bodies, and I'm still mad as hell about this. Capiche?
Oh, yeah.
I saw 9/11. I smelled 9/11. It ruined my city. Ruined my city. Our security. We had to do extraordinary security measures in buildings and everything, and it ruined and it took a dent in my life.
Of course.
Thank you, Eric.
I'm sorry to bother you about this, but
No,
I am mad as hell. They always attack us on our holidays. They have no motives for different people. As Thomas Sowell says, they're envious of us because we're successful. That's what Thomas Sowell says creates anti-Semitism. It's pure envy.
Okay,
Capiche?
thank you. Anyone else like to offer a thought? If not, we are going to get back to Torah. I want to mention that, first of all, we are all enormously upset, and I just can't contain my personal feelings. I apologize. The rabbi is supposed to be the calm leader, supplying comfort and support and a direction into a shiny future. If you want that, please go to another channel, because that ain't going to be coming from me today. A friend in the middle of the night screamed in the email at me that her very close friend, the mayor of Shar HaNegev, was killed. And she was weeping through the email. Okay, I will have, and I regret this, I will have no tolerance for even-handedness and a pox on both their houses, and we should feel sorry for the poor, oppressed, whatever. This is war, and I have to tell you, I pray that Israel wins quickly, as bloodlessly as possible, but that there be no question as to where the victory would lie. Let me just see. Who said, let's see. Marvin Harvey, to everyone, agree with your response. Ray, okay. Okay, I got that. And obfuscation.
Bob,
Why?
did you call Elisa?
I've got to pee right now. I'll call her when I get done. Please.
Okay. What about, there was a question about the hostages. David asked the question. The hostages taken into Gaza will be used to, they're going to be put in buildings near where the IDF is coming. Okay? That's where they're going to be put. And the IDF was be given the chance to say, are we going to go invade, with the obvious possibility that the invasion will cause more Israeli deaths. They're pawns. They're not human beings, David. They're pawns, and they will be sacrificed. And pretty much Israelis know that. The thought that these people at Simchat Torah parties were captured and taken into Gaza was validated by the cell phone data, the cell phone pinging, so that they know where these people in general are, and it's going to be terrible. Maya, I know you're online. I don't know. Did you say something? Do you want to say something, or can we just move? What's going on with your head and campus? Anything, Maya?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi. I was just explaining what some of the articles from Al Jazeera have been moving around. Thankfully, I think there has been no big response yet. My hope is that people won't start raising their voices until they understand what's going on. But that's not really how life works, so I'm not sure yet.
That's not how life works. So you're already well too experienced in political science. Don't worry, dear. As your grandfather, I assure you, all love and goodness will follow, and only nice people will lead countries. I can promise you that. What I am expecting, Maya, is a lot of campus activism anti-Israel. That is what I am expecting. I'm expecting that you will experience and that you will find in the feeds with your undergraduate friends scattered across the world, a massive outpouring of hate toward Israel. I was with your folks last night. Everything was fine. We had Thai food to celebrate my birthday. Okay. Oh, no, excuse me. It was Chinese food. I lied. Chinese food. Okay, babe. Take care of yourself. I'm going to shift now into Torah study for the little bit of time. I want to mention that at 10 o'clock, we are scheduled, Wilshire Boulevard is scheduled for Yizkor services to close off Simchat Torah. I've had no indication that anything is going to happen other than Yizkor services, closing of Simchat Torah, will occur at 10 o'clock live streamed. For those of you, I will be running to join that. I want to participate in Yizkor and so forth. Brad, do you have a final word of intelligent thought to calm me down before we go to Torah? Come on, Brad. Make me feel good.
I don't think this is a feel-good moment.
Thanks for that. Okay, all right. My lesson plan, which runs to many pages, I'm really here. Runs to many pages. The lesson plan said, well, you know, this morning they're going to be reading the end of Deuteronomy and the beginning of Genesis, and we all know what goes on with that. And I just didn't feel like, oh, this is going to be a normal Shabbat morning. I don't want to do that. Let's do the hidden Torah portion. What is the hidden Torah portion? V'zot bracha. That's the end of Deuteronomy, and that isn't being studied in Chevra Torah because we move to the celebration of Simchat Torah, given what's going on here. So I am going to move with all of the authority invested in me, which is zero. I am going to move to V'zot bracha, which is in there we go. We are on page 1420. Rebecca, did you just post a sardonic comment? Huh? Okay, I'll smile at that.
My alma mater, UC Santa Cruz, is having a anti-Zionist conference October 13 through 14.
Okay, so.
And I just posted who's sponsoring it.
Okay, the Critical Race and Ethnic Studies Department for Racial Justice is sponsoring an anti-Zionist conference at UCSC, University of California, right? October 13th and 14th. I'm not going to be there. Okay. The Zota Bracha, 1420 and following, and we're gonna shift Stanley Davids' mind. Okay. This is a chapter that deals with the death of Moses, right? This is the chapter that says Moses dies. If you will look at page 1427, 1426, Moses goes up to Mount Nebo, right? And God said to him, this is the land which I've sworn to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'll let you see it with your own eyes. You shall not cross there. So, verse 5, Moses, the servant of the Eternal, died there. God buried him. No one knows his burial place. Moses was 120, and very much unlike me, his eyes were undimmed and his vigor unabated. I would like Moses's medical description. It sounds pretty good. They wailed for Moses 30 days, more than 30 days, and never again did there arise in Israel a prophet like Moses, whom God, in verse 10 in the Hebrew, page 1427, Lokam Navi Od Israel, and no prophet like unto Moses has arisen in Israel, Asher Yada'o Adonai Panim El Panim, whom God knew face to face. The English says, whom the Eternal singled out face to face. The Hebrew says, whom God knew face to face. And for all of the signs and wonders that God sent this Moses to do, and for the great might and awesome power that Moses displayed. Kol hayada chazaka, kol hamora, awesome power, which Moses displayed before the eyes of all Israel. So Moses dies. My question today, as we ease into a full 1 hour, which is going to be done in 15 minutes, that I want to know what your image of Moses is. If a non-Jewish person would ask you, who is Moses? Your answer would be, well, for me, Moses is fill in the blank. We want short, multiple answers. Fill in the blank. Moses is. Moses is. I see Steve, I see Eric.
I actually had a question before answering that. And I think it was Exodus 33, God puts Moses in a cleft of the rock and says Moses isn't allowed to see his face. So did Moses see God's face or did Moses not see God's face?
There is no face to see, and the rabbis interpret Moses was put in a cleft of rock and all that he could see was God's back. And every single commentator says that means all that Moses could see was the impact of the acts of God, not ever seeing God. Doesn't happen.
Okay.
So what
Okay,
does the face-to-face mean here? Does that mean the same thing?
I'm sorry, ask your question.
So
again.
right here in Deuteronomy, then what does face-to-face mean?
It's the same thing. To be face to face is to understand another through one's acts.
Okay.
Through one's acts. Eric.
Okay. Moses was the best trustee that God could have picked for us. He knew Egypt like the back of his hand. He knew most of leadership quality because he was a leader in Egypt. And also, I have this other question. The last line of the Torah is Israel, and the first line of Bereshit is Bereshit. So I can consume that's very interesting combination that Israel and Bereshit are matched together, because the Torah is the beginning of the tribe, the Israel community. In the Torah, it tells you the lineage and the pathway that the Jewish people will be.
Okay, and what we have, the rabbis love to play games about connecting the last words of Deuteronomy and the first words of Genesis. Always. I mean, that is fertile ground for major sermons. So that the last word in Deuteronomy is Yisrael. Yay. Okay. Yisrael. And the first word of Genesis is Bereshit, in the beginning. So this whole Torah is the story of the beginning of Israel. That's what it is, and that is true. Okay, Donna.
Moses was a prophet, the leader of. He'd been a witness to slavery. He witnessed everything. He even killed an Egyptian. Raised in the Pharaoh's palace, and God raised him up because he was chosen. He was one of God's chosen to lead the people, lead us.
Thank you for that. Any other comments?
You're welcome.
How do you view Moses? Larry, when your kids say to you, hey, Dad, you know everything. Who was Moses?
Well, first of all, my kids know me better than to say that. Moses, right. Moses is the leader whose leadership manifested itself despite his flaws and very human aspects. I mean, the thing about Moses as a leader is that he did have these flaws that would have held him back in other circumstances.
He did have flaws which would have held him back. Okay. I somehow, is that a question, a comment, a thought?
I think it's more a comment. I think I would tell my kids that Moses was, in many respects, just like us, but called upon to be a great leader.
Super. Thank you. Thank you. Marina.
My thought is similar to Larry's. He was a humble person who was called to be a leader, and he lived up to this role.
Thank you. David.
He was our greatest prophet, yet, as Marina mentioned, he was humble. He led the Jews into what they eventually became today. And notwithstanding his greatness, his valor, he was replaced by somebody else, not as great, but that shows that everybody can contribute to the good of somebody else or our country, yet the Jews continue on.
Thank you very much. Yeah, David, you brought to mind something which I absolutely will not talk about. It's how does a senior rabbi relate to the rabbi who, after the senior rabbi's retirement, replaces that rabbi? And I am so not going into that category. But some of us, I'm going to hide behind my humanity. Some of us are human beings, and being replaced is not really where we wanted to go in life, but it happens, and life goes on, and it has to happen, right? It has to happen. There's a category here that I need to mention. In the Torah, we mentioned, for example, in verse 34:5. So Moses, Eved Adonai, Moses, the servant of God. Okay, here's a question. How many times is Moses referred to as Eved Adonai in the Torah? Just here.
Oh, no.
Just here. This is a rare designation, a servant of God. So we could really talk about, we could talk about the servant of a great power knows an awful lot about that great power. As a servant of God, Moses is described as having interactions with God and therefore would be assumed to know more about God than anyone else. But, question, did Moses create anything, or was Moses an instrument of God's will? I mean, this is real. We say, Torah tziva lana Moshe. This is the Torah commanded to us through Moses, Morashah Kehilat Yaakov, a possession of the community. So Torah commanded to us by Moses. Was Torah Mosaic, or was Moses the transcriber, the transmitter? We have to think about that when we think about Moses. Tamara, please.
Well, both. Definitely both. As a recipient, he had to interpret. I'm talking about what the Torah says, that he received Torah, but he also interpreted it and has his own voice and talents and knowledge that are part of the Torah, according to the Torah itself.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve.
I want to go back to the beginning of Moses' career, because I think what he shows is that if you have some strong ethical motivation, you can become a leader and accomplish a lot. He was a very wealthy person living in the court of Pharaoh who escaped for reasons of prompted by some feeling of injustice. And I think that if you go, we get lost in all the things he did, starting with the Exodus and his pleas to Pharaoh. But yeah, I think you have to go back much earlier to understand Moses.
And thank you, Steve. Okay, Brad, and then I'm going to move, unfortunately, toward the conclusion. I have to. Brad?
Well, I'm thinking of this in literary terms. I mean, if we think of the 5 books of Moses as a book, Moses is the main character. And even when he's not there, we think of the other characters in this book, whether they be Noah or Abraham or Jacob, etc., Joseph, etc. We think of them in comparison with Moses or as anticipating Moses. So Moses is the focal point of this book, and everything is he's the prism through which we see all the rest of the characters in the book.
Yes. Yeah, it is that. Look, I'm going to have to go this way. Number one, Moses has become, for Jews, a blank page on which is written the needs of a given generation. Over time, Moses has been described as an author, a prophet, a miracle worker. He was called by the rabbis in the Talmud, and to this very day, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, our teacher. Several of you did something which was fascinating to me. He is universally described as humble. It's one of the things that always seems to pop up in describing Moses. However it is, we have absorbed the impression Moses was humble and a stutterer. For Philo, he was a king, a lawgiver, a priest, and a prophet. For radical philosophers in the Enlightenment period, he was a fraud, like Jesus and like Mohammed. They kind of beat up on Moses. Maimonides saw Moses as a philosopher But Maimonides wrote, if all Moses did was to offer philosophic proofs, the people would forget them. So instead, Moses created a system of social living and gave practical expression to how values shape a community. And in that way, Moses helped the people, and I'm quoting, remember their history and the principles on which it was founded. Hillel refers to Moses Maimonides as our Rabbi Moses, who was Hillel referred to Moshe Rabbeinu as second only, as being number one, and Moses Maimonides number two. I got that right now. So Maimonides was the second Moses, and Moses the first. These were the great guys. Josephus says that Moses possessed the cardinal virtues of wisdom, courage, temperance, and justice. And he stresses Moses's willingness to undergo toil. Plato described Moses as an educator. What do we get here with all of this? I have to end by saying I had the privilege of studying with Israel Knohl, Knohl. I always would have referred to him as Noel, but he pronounces the K. He's Knohl. And Israel Knohl, a superb Bible professor, Hebrew University, Hartman Institute, wrote that he believes that Moses actually existed and that the Exodus was real, not in the way we understand it, but there was some movement of people, could have been just the priests, whatever, from Egypt, and that Moses was a real person. He believes, catch this, that Moses led a band of Israelites into Egypt during a great famine. Take the story of Jacob, right? So rewrite the story of Jacob and his sons going to Egypt during the famine. And Moses tried to overthrow the leadership of Egypt. Moses and his men lost, were expelled from Egypt, and retreated to Canaan. That's Israel Knohl. Now, my last thought is the question whether Moses actually existed. And that is I wish I had time. We can't discuss it today. We'll do it next year. The question as to whether Moses was an historical figure is a real question. And I'm going to just tomorrow let you have the last word. If someone raises the question to you about whether Moses was an historical figure, how would you respond?
You caught me. I don't know, but I'm just writing something in the chat as you called me. If he didn't exist, we would have had to invent him. And there's a fabulous book called Reinscribing Moses that shows that some 4 great Jews who were assimilated, Schoenberg even converted out, all turned to Moses, the figure of Moses, at the end of their life. You don't think of Freud doing it, but he did. And Heine called him the one who invented an adult nation and created a long-lasting monument larger than the pyramids or the temples in Greece. He created the Jewish people. So,
Tell me about Schoenberg.
Schoenberg wrote Moses und Aaron at the end of his life, wrestling with that. Freud has amazing things about Moses at the end of his life.
Moses and monotheism.
And Heine also converted out and turned to Moses saying, I went to the Louvre and I saw Venus. He was in love with Hellenistic culture. And he said, I looked at her and she had no arms to hold me. And he turns to Moses as the figure and the teacher who has the gift we need to live our lives. So for me, Moses is very special, of course. I mean, and I don't know about the precise history.
Oh, you just gave a brilliant close to my chaotic
beautiful.
presentation. The image of no arms, she has no arms to hold me. Wow. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for much of the tone and texture of today. I join with you in praying, first of all, for the security and stability of the state of Israel, the safety of its citizens, but in a broader sense, to pray, please, broader sense. I'm getting feedback or someone talking, please don't. In a broader sense, human beings are down. Okay, I don't know what that is. I apologize.
It's coming from Tamara.
I know where it's coming from. What do you hear what you said, Rabbi?
Saba, you're on mute.
Hundreds more human beings are going to die. And there is no pleasure in that. There is no joy in that. And no one deserves that. But my primary concern, call me a Zionist, call me a lover of the state of Israel, call me a proud Jew. My primary concern right now is Israel, its security, its stability, and its capacity to crush whatever has been thrown against it. And we're going to move now to Kaddish. And I love you, and I'm so sorry that our day had to be marred with the ugliness of the world in which we live. Those who have passed away during the past month include Sheila Berman, Masood Bina, Richard Hawley, James Klein, Linda Lubitz, Phil Pansky, Etta Robin, Robert Rosenfield, David Ruderman, Lena Silver, Norma Temkin, Rose Whiter, Joseph Zuskin. I have been asked by Barbara Dishler to mention as well Jackie and Andy Raymond, who were members of Barbara Abara at University Synagogue. Andy just passed away, and this Monday, Jackie followed him.
Oh.
So we include their names as well.
God.
No sites that have occurred during the past week: Cliff Ackerman, Joan Adler, Arthur Adler, Robin Emmernick, Naomi Atty, Norman Bloom, Richard Bookman, Edward Brooks, Mae Brissell, Erwin Karsman, Ronald Cohen, Alan Cohan, Henrietta Colton, Mark Cordova, Dixon Dan, Jerry Diener, Gene Weissman Dreisen, Abraham Drach, Gene Eller, Michael Epport, Muriel Feinstein, Norman Felsenthal, Ellen Fidlin, Max Firestein, Marvin Fishman, Jacqueline Fitzpatrick, Bill Flansbaum, Harvey Lawrence Flax, Jerome Franklin, Frank Freeman, Harold Gelfand, William Glick, Donald Goldman, Frederick Gologorski, Barbara Gordon, Ben Gordon, Monty Gordon, Eleanor Greenberg, Evelyn Greenberg, Sally Groman, Norman Hoffman, Miriam Hoffman, Milton Hoffman, Ruth Jacobs, Ann Jenkins, Helen Judah, Beverly Bissell Kalish, Sue Ann Kalkstein, Florence Katz, Shulamit Katz, Shuli, Henrietta Yetta Klein, Adele Lee Koenig, Sheldon Kramer, Ray Kurtz, Grace Lexanetta, Irving Lazare, Mike Lisak, Gail Levy, Cy Lieberman, Marshall Lind, Gabriel Lovell, Bernard Louie, Lillian Moreni, Leo Miller, Sally Morgan, Lauren Nadelman, Ian Nygaard, Barbara Platt, Joe Pollock, Alan Portnoy, Nimatola Paratian, Sheldon Prescott, Marvin Rose, Cynthia Rosenwald, Nathan Rubin, Sam Radofsky, Olin Ruxon, Samuel Skadron, Ludmilla Schatz, Dorothy Schwartz, Herbert Searman, Joyce Lynn Schaefer, Norman Sheridan, Simon Sherman, Lawrence Gordon Schulman, Leonard Sykoff, Helen Silverstein, Sarah Sinderoff, Benjamin Sklaver, Joyce Slayton, Hayden Solomons, Jean Friel Sturman, Jacob Shapiro, Leonard Trank, Evelyn Touche, Barbara Ungers, Julian Union, Louis Vigan, Sorley Wagman, Fern Beatrice Wallace, Felicia Weber, Miriam Webster, Stephen Weiner, Jerry Weiser, Irma Weiskopf, Bob Whitman, Shirley Wintrob, Warren Wolf. We mention as well and call into our hearts the names of those who have been murdered and killed during this attack on the state of Israel. We bear in mind the names of Americans who died in defense of our country. We bear in mind the names of all those whose names we do not know and have no one to say Kaddish for them. We bring them into our hearts. We call into mind all those who died through senseless acts of horror. If you have other names you would like to speak aloud, please do so now or hold them in your hearts. And we will join together in Kaddish, remembering that Yizkor is beginning now at Wilshire Boulevard live stream. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Rabba Yalmad Vra Irute
Emit Malkute.
V'chaye
Todu Yomecho,
V'chaye Israel
Hagalai Mishpat Kavi Biru Amen.
V'imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Li'alam
Leo Maya,
Yitbarach V'yishtabach
Avar Vietramam Vietnese,
May Kedusha Beirafu.
Yitalal Shmei Dekudusha Le'elam Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbachata
Tamata. To Amrima.
Amen.
Amen.
Yehi
Shlama
Shlama
Rabba
Rabba
Mishimaya,
Maya V'chaim Aleinu
it'll be I'll call Yisrael. Amen.
Yebru Omen.
V'imru Yaseh Shalom El Kol Yisrael
Amen.
Adonai Oz L'amo Yiten Adonai Yevarech et Amo V'Shalom. God gives strength to the Jewish people. God bring peace to the people of Israel, the state of Israel, and to our crazy, messed up world. And let us say,
Amen.
and please be in touch if you want to be in touch over the course of the week. And I love you, and I'm so glad I could be with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
We're glad we're together. We love you all. I love you. We call him Joe. He's going to send troops this week. I'm going to tell him he better.
Shabbat shalom.